Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I need to talk about one of the NHL's biggest problems that is affecting the salary cap and the entire landscape of the NHL playoffs over the past few seasons, and that of course is the dreaded LTIR system, which somehow, someway has gotten even more controversial over this past week. If you don't know, it was kind of flooded by the Tyler Toffoli news, but the Vegas Golden Knights activated Jack Eichel finally after their big blockbuster trade. He will be healthy and ready to go this week, but a big problem surrounding the situation was how Vegas was going to fit it with the salary cap, and they have found the way, putting Mark Stone on LTIR for the foreseeable future. But there is a big problem here with the NHL that needs to be solved and, quite frankly, isn't getting enough attention. So what is really the big problem here for the NHL and the salary cap, and what happens next for the NHL and the entire hockey world? Watch till the end for all of the problems and all of the craziness with the situation, and make sure that subscribe button if you are new. 55% of the people that are watching are not subscribed. If you like hockey, this channel is the place to be. Now, you've probably caught on to what the problem is for the NHL, and that, of course, is the LTIR system, a system that's been exploited by Chicago and Tampa in the past, and now is being exploited by the Vegas Golden Knights so far this year. Now, the situation with Vegas was pretty interesting. To be able to get Jack Eichel on the books, they needed to put another person on LTIR. They already had Alec Martinez and his $5 million plus contract on there as well, but Mark Stone has been suffering with day-to-day and mild back issues throughout the season, and it seems like it's a pretty much perfect timing to put Mark Stone on LTIR and get that $9.5 million off the books. Now when they activate Jack Eichel and his $10 million cap hit, they'll still have $4 million to work with, which, if Mark Stone and Martinez are out until the playoffs, would be able to allow a potential another addition at the NHL trade deadline for the Vegas Golden Knights. So all in all, it works out a little all too well, but at the same time for Mark Stone, he has missed a decent chunk of this season, around 20 games so far. He's played 28 games, getting 28 points, and has been great when he has played, but he's been suffering from those back issues all season long. Now, the thing for me, and a thing that a lot of people are pointing at, is the fact that Mark Stone was at the All-Star game. He was participating, he was in the game, he played pretty decently, and just a week later, pretty much, he's on LTIR and could be out into the playoffs. Now, there's a pretty good chance that he was good enough for the All-Star game, and now a week later, maybe the back issues have gotten worse for him, and now he needs to be on LTIR. But it's fair to say that a lot of people, especially after the Tampa situation with Nikita Kucherov, are fairly hesitant to call that the case. To me, I will trust Vegas in this situation that Mark Stone isn't great enough to play, but at the same time, it is great timing for them now that Jack Eichel is back and healthy. Now, if you don't know, the reason why this is such a big deal is that in the playoffs, the salary cap does not matter. You could be $20 million over the salary cap in the playoffs, and you'll be completely fine. As long as you're cap compliant in the regular season and bringing back guys on day one of the playoffs, you're completely off scot-free, as the NHL says. And that, to me, is a pretty big problem when we're talking about the LTIR system, because now Vegas is next in line to potentially abuse this system. I mean, with Mark Stone, I have no doubt that there is back issues there. He's, again, missed about 20 games. He's only played a decent chunk of this season, but even though those are a few troubles with his health, I still think he would probably be good enough to be back by the end of the regular season and play games, and that can still be a factor, but there's nothing stopping Vegas from keeping Mark Stone on LTIR, keeping Alec Martinez on LTIR, and even if they're good to be back in February or late February or March or anything, they could keep those guys on LTIR, instead make another addition at the NHL trade deadline and bring the whole band back together for game one of the NHL playoffs. And if I'm Vegas and I have the opportunity to do that, that is exactly what I do. Yes, Mark Stone is extremely valuable, but you would have $4 million to work with once you bring back Jack Eichel to potentially get a trade deadline acquisition. And for Vegas, especially when Colorado's on the other side of the conference, you want to have as much firepower as humanly possible, especially if they're going to go after a guy like Claude Giroux or Joe Pavelski. So to me, that's what Vegas is likely going to do, and there's nothing stopping them. That's what the NHL has almost supported, is that type of salary cap shenanigans. And if you're Vegas, there's no reason why you wouldn't take advantage of that and expose every single loophole. And that reason alone is exactly why I think a lot of people need to maybe shift their judgment on the LTIR system. A lot of people look at this situation and blame Vegas, blame Tampa Bay for taking advantage of loopholes that are perfectly legal, when in my opinion, the blame should be on the NHL. If you don't like this system, if you don't like how it works, the NHL is the one that made this system and allowed those loopholes to be happening. And the thing was, after the Tampa Bay situation where Nikita Kucherov had surgery before the season and went all the way into the game one of the playoffs and was activated off LTIR, the NHL investigated that whole situation and came back that it was fully legal and fully allowed to happen. So if you're mad at this situation, if you're mad that these players are able to keep by until game one of the playoffs, then make your voices heard about the NHL side of things. Don't get mad at Vegas and Tampa Bay and all these teams that are going to be taking advantage of it, because that's fully within their right. It's in the rule book, and you'd be stupid to not do it. That was kind of my opinion going back to that Tampa Bay situation with Nikita Kucherov 2 years ago. I thought that for Tampa, honestly, you might as well do it. I mean, you're that smart, you're that great with the cap already. It's to be expected at this point. And in my opinion, even though there were a lot of people mad at Tampa Bay for doing that, it was fully within their rights and nobody else was taking advantage of it. And it also goes back to what some people are saying, that it's not fair. Well, guess what? The NHL isn't fair and life isn't fair. And guess what? If you're a good enough team to not have Stone or Kucherov in your lineup and still make the playoffs consistently, why wouldn't you do it? You might as well. There is no reason not to. And again, it goes back to what the repercussions, what the consequences are for these teams. If you're Tampa Bay, there are zero consequences in doing something like that. You're not going to miss the playoffs, and you're going to have a fully healthy star back for you in game one. Sure, there might be some chemistry lost, but if you're Tampa, if you're Vegas, it doesn't matter one bit. Every contending team, simply put, should look at doing something like this because it's perfectly legal and the NHL has said so. But that, again, is the problem. It's not the teams, it's not the GMs that are these evil people taking advantage of something that's illegal. It is perfectly within the rulebook for these GMs to take advantage, and the smart ones are doing so. It's the NHL's problem for putting this in place and having this type of loophole, because we're seeing so many teams take advantage and winning cups with that. I mean, the thing is, the first example of this happening was with the 2015 Blackhawks, where they had Patrick Kane and LTIR until the playoffs started, and they were able to get a ton of rentals at the trade deadline with Kane's cap off the books. And that year, they won the Stanley Cup. Tampa, the year they did this, won the Stanley Cup. And who knows what happens with the Vegas Golden Knights, but all these teams have been super successful doing it. And until the NHL disallows them, there's going to be a ton of contending teams doing the same, as they should. And the thing is, I thought it was especially funny going back to that Tampa Bay situation that so many fans and so many people were mad at Tampa Bay, especially for doing it. I think most of it was jealousy, let's be real here. But at the same time, I think that a lot of people still don't know to this day that back in 2015, after the Chicago Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup with those salary cap shenanigans, the Tampa Bay Lightning put to the NHL and put to all NHL teams a vote to potentially get rid of this LTIR rule and system. They were the one team that not just voted against it, but brought it up in the first place to potentially be removed. If you're going to blame anybody, don't blame the Tampa Bay Lightning. Blame your teams for not doing anything about it, but also not taking advantage of it. Tampa was the one team so far in the 2020s before Vegas to actually take advantage of it, and they didn't even want it in the first place. So especially in the Tampa Bay situation, don't blame them. Once again, blame the NHL and blame other teams for not doing anything about it. And really, the only thing you have to do with this situation, you can keep the LTIR, you can keep everything like that. The only thing you have to do, if you're the NHL, is keep the salary cap in the playoffs. That's it. Just have it where the salary cap counts in the playoffs, the same amount as the regular season. That would stop all of these things. It would stop teams from putting a Nikita Kucherov an LTIR, getting a couple of great players at the deadline, raising their salary cap, and then bringing Kucherov back and having them way above the cap during the playoffs. It would stop all of that if you just had the cap count in the playoffs. And I know there would be some complications because of that, but at the same time, it's a pretty simple fix, and you don't even need to get rid of the LTIR system. There's some problems with it for sure, but all you needed to do was keep the salary cap in the playoffs and you're good to go. And in my opinion, it's as simple as that. You wouldn't have Mark Stone situations, you wouldn't have Kucherov situations, you wouldn't have Patrick Kane situations back in 2015. It would all be over and it would all be so simple. So for the NHL, It's pretty easy. Say the salary cap matters in the playoffs and put it into place, because that's all it needs to happen for the league to be just a little bit more balanced. But again, going back to the teams that are doing this, don't blame them, don't hate the player, hate the game, because it seems like for the NHL, there's a big balancing issue right now, and I think personally it does need to stop. Don't blame the teams, blame the NHL for this huge problem that will likely get a lot worse. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below, what do you guys think about this problem for the NHL? Do you think it's a problem? Do you think it's not a problem? What would you do if you were Gary Bettman? What would you change? What would you do if you were the GMs of these teams? Let me know all your thoughts about this, the shenanigans right now happening in the salary cap era. Now, of course, make sure you share this video with your friends. Get this whole situation out there to anybody you guys know, and click on this card right here for all of my hockey news content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.